heavily overbought, which is part of the reason why we're not panicking and like alarm bells aren't going off and the world's not burning to the ground for us and we're not stressed out in any way, shape, or form. And it's very clear both Bitcoin, Ethereum, and a lot of the other altcoins are just like heavily overbought going into quarter four, especially with all the negative news and kind of downturns within the standard stock market as well too, to kind of coincide with it. And that really the market uptick is based more on hopium than it is anything else. So it's just waiting for people in the retail space to kind of get tired of this, or for the the big guys in the market to come through and be like, all right, you guys have had your fun, you should have taken your profits, it's time for everything to go back down to where it's supposed to be, which should be about, like I said, and I've posted it a couple of times, Ethereum should have come up, but it shouldn't have come up in the way that it did. Same thing with like Bitcoin. Bitcoin should be more in about the 3,200 range right now, or 32,000 range. Ethereum should be closer to about the 1,700 range. I mean, I'm not discounting the bump up that we got, but this is definitely a lot of retail FOMO, which is why we aren't like stressed out about this. There's no panic from the team on this side over here. And we're just kind of like, all right, it's going to get back down there. We know it's going to get back down there, and we just got to kind of wait it out. So,
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, if we want to put... Sorry, go ahead.
You can go ahead. You go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, if we really want to put on the conspiracy hat and kind of look at it, the IBTC, the ETF that everybody got so hyped about, it's been listed since August. So it's like there's nothing really new there. It was just finally, like announced by a lot of the major CT, people and a lot of the major news practices. But, anyone that pays attention to any of that kind of stuff, it's been up there for like months. So we're just kind of like, I don't know why it's moving like this. So it's really just kind of like built on this fallacy that the price of Bitcoin needed to kind of go up, which makes a lot of sense because there was a lot of retail liquidations as well too that happened, as a ridiculous amount of options were expiring last Friday. Ooh, so yeah, that's the conspiracy hat that's kind of going around right now, is like, really the only reason why I got this high up in the first place anyways is because about $4.6 billion worth of option contracts were expiring on Friday and people wanted to make the mark. And it really coincides with this pump that we saw of what, $2,500 on the Bitcoin side in like one day or something like that, 3,000 in like one day. So
yeah, it was crazy. So what does that mean if options contracts are expiring? What does that mean? That they're having to buy more Bitcoin to create new contracts?
So they either had to roll into new contracts, or it's a situation where people had the option to, buy, Bitcoin at a given price, and then, could do whatever they want with it. So like, let's say somebody had an option contract for Bitcoin at 30,000 and the price went up to 35,000. They effectively get the option to buy Bitcoin at 30,000, even though it's valued at 35,000. So it's like, it's very much so in the place of somebody who has like a massive amount of option contracts to go through and do this. And to think that anyone in the market is really kind of, playing in a space where there's no regulation, it would make a lot of sense for this to kind of be the case. Again, conspiracy hat on here while I'm kind of saying this. It makes a lot of sense. Like, the actual finance industry and everything, all of crypto as a whole is pennies on the dollar to the amount of nonsense that they have going on. So as an example of such, I believe Binance does something like, like $4.6 billion or something like that in volume a day. Bank of America is is basically in the red about $110 billion right now just in their bonds. So they don't give a shit, and moving the market like this is like peanuts for them. Like, it's like the shells of peanuts. It's not even a full peanut. So yeah, I mean, it's expected. It'll come back down. It's just going to take a while. But again, when it does get back down to that point, it's going to be a case where effectively we've done an entire month's worth of transactions, or trading, or whatever you want to call it, in like one trade is basically the best way to kind of look at it. But it's going to take some time.
Yeah.
We were a little bit more hopeful that it would kind of go through, that first week through like Wednesday, Thursday, and stuff like that. It had all the markers to kind of come back down. We did have a couple of spikes back down, and the only reason for anyone who's curious why it didn't close is because there was slightly more liquidity and slightly more open buys for long contracts on Bybit than there were on certain other CEXs. So like Binance, it actually got down to 1735. I believe there were a couple of others where it kind of got down into that range as well too. But Bybit actually had a slightly higher amount of liquidity in terms of people wanting to, buy longs. So it was a situation where it didn't quite dip down to where it should have been for everything else. Just those slight deviations that we sometimes see from one CEX to the next, where it's like $2 to $3, and that was really all the difference that it made here. Is that in Bybit it stayed at 1741, but over on like say Binance, I got all the way down to like 1735, and that would have been profit for us right there. Like we easily could have closed out the position on that side. So it's like we don't really have a massive worry regarding this. It's why we're fairly calm about it. And again, there's no panic on our side, and we're like, we don't really need to get out of the position here, because again, every marker that's out there is saying that both Bitcoin and Ethereum are like horrendously overbought at this point in time for what the market is, expecting value wise. So yeah, again, that's not to say that Bitcoin shouldn't be higher than what it was like a week and a half ago, because I think it could have probably gotten up to the 31, 32 range and just kind of stayed there a little bit. But it is very much so a case where, like, being up in the 34, 35, 36, it's very much so a case where Bitcoin should come back down. Ethereum will kind of follow the same path that we've kind of seen before as well, too, where it should come back down, in the same realm there. So, yep, that's kind of where the team is at right now, and why there's no real outright panic from us. But that's the update. Cool. Still in the trade, still just kind of hanging out and waiting to see, when this is going to come back down, so we can just close out at about almost 13% profit. Nice. And then just move on to our next trade.
Yep, that is nice. Because, yeah, I mean, the whole first 4 weeks that we were watching, I mean, we made, 7.5%. This from just one trade is going to be almost 13%. So.
Right. And again, and if we had gotten lucky and there wasn't nearly as much open interest, in that range, that 1340 range, which is basically where it bounced off of. If there wouldn't have been nearly as much open interest there, we would have actually been able to take, part in a lot of the volatility that was going on, throughout the past, like week here. Because I mean, that happened. That spike was, I think, like Thursday or something like that. So if that would have happened, we would have been able to take full advantage of the volatility throughout like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then today as well too. But it is what it is. It's just one of those things where, we are just going to have to kind of wait on this a little bit longer.
Yep.
All right.
What's that?
I was just saying, you've got questions.
Yeah, I just stuff that I read in the community and whatnot. So just to ask another question or two about that one specific trade, the bot continued to build positions as the price went higher, didn't it?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay. And this was just a general question. Am I right in thinking that the longer a trade, the more profitable it is usually?
Depends. So there's two kind of factors that tie along to that. It's how much is it dollar cost averaging while that's going on, and the likelihood for it to return back to what it is, in order to be able to close out that position. So in this case, it's very much so an instance where, and we're expecting that pullback, but the amount that it's been able to dollar cost average while it's been doing this is drastically higher than what it would be if the market wasn't moving at all. And like, let's say we opened up, if we opened up a long position, and I'm just using this as an example, if we opened up a long position and, we're expecting the price to increase $50, we'll say, before, we hit our like take profit point there. If it only moves up and down $10, $15 a day, it's not really ever going to hit that $50. So like being in a trade for a longer period of time isn't necessarily the best, case scenario for us, but it can definitely kind of, lean into being a little more helpful in a position or a situation somewhat like this, where it's like, hey, even though we're in a longer position or a longer holding time, we were able to accumulate a lot more, and we still have plenty of room that we can accumulate even beyond this as well too. And it's very much so a case where we're fully expecting it to bounce back down to where it should be, because again, it's egregiously overbought. So it kind of has a couple of factors where like length of being in a trade isn't the only thing that's important. There's other factors that kind of tie into it as well.
Okay, I gotcha. Mitch was asking, 12% sounds great and all, but if the price doesn't drop back down anytime soon, what implications does that have? Will it still make a profit?
Totally.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, really the only way that it just won't make a profit is if this continues to hold and then increase all the way through the bull run, which probably won't start until Q3, Q4 of next year. So effectively, we, as crazy as it's going to have to say, as crazy it is to kind of say this, we'd have to be in this position for roughly about a year where like it never moves at all. Like there's no downward trend at any point in time. There's no upward trend at any point in time where we can, dollar cost average additional, position wise if we want to. But effectively, if it stayed exactly kind of in this range for a year and, and then finally just shot up with the bull market, yeah, I mean, we'd be in a position where it'd be negative at that point in time. But again, everything that you look at in terms of like the position of both Ethereum and Bitcoin, they're all showing that they're drastically overbought. Retail's overbought and, over purchased into it right now. And it's going to be absolutely brutal when they get slammed, probably, I would say, within about the next week or so. And if FOMC comes out with negative news, there's a very high likelihood that, we could see our position get closed out tomorrow. It just kind of depends on how all that goes. The S&P is already dipping, in after hours today as well too, after, trying to liquidate and close out a lot of short positions before the end of the day. I mean, we saw that shoot up for no reason in any way, shape, or form. And then tomorrow, we're probably going to see a massive dip. I don't think that they'll raise the rates, but I think it'll be a position where they'll leave it open and on the table to be able to raise rates, which basically will mean negatives in the long run as well too, which could mean, at least for this year, we could see one more rate hike, which I believe they've already talked about is at some point in time before the end of the year having one more rate hike. So yeah, there's a very high likelihood that we might see, the position be able to be closed out tomorrow.
Moonrise asked, can you guys consider taking profits at each level so as not to wait for one certain level in order to cash out? The bot should do this automatically. I didn't really understand what she was asking.
So in effect, we're trying to always kind of optimize what the bot does, but we can't really just close out certain ones without it offsetting other things. So effectively, as you dollar cost average into a trade, and you buy more and more as the price goes in one direction or the other direction, it becomes a situation where effectively your cost basis changes. Now, mind you, we've been in this position since roughly about the 21st, so our baseline that we started off with was actually in about that $1,600 range, a little bit higher. I think it was like about $1,630. So it's just slowly been dollar cost averaging its way up, every little bit, because again, it just was what it's meant to do, and it'll slowly kind of come back down and eventually it'll close out. But the reason why we can't just close out necessarily the ones that are in profit and that's it, is it means that it has to come further back down. So like the most recent dollar cost average that it did was about at the 1860 range, which brought our take profit up about $12. It also brought up our break-even point about $16. Now, the issue with that being is if we were to take profit on specifically that one right now, it would lower our take profit and our break-even back down to what it was before. So in theory, you could take smaller profits on this, but it would just mean that we'd have to wait longer for it to reverse course and go back the other direction. And again, we don't think it's going to get all the way back down to the 1600s, which is what it originally kind of started off with in the, the 20th, 21st. We think it'll probably settle back down into about the 1700 area. High 1690s is what we probably will end up seeing by the time the dust settles. So it's very much so a case where we're kind of looking at it as like we could take some dollar cost profits there, but it would just mean that instead of us being at like 1738, we'd have to go all the way back down to 1726. And so it doesn't benefit us to kind of, close out in that type of position right now, at least, especially when we have that, very solid feeling that it's going to reverse course and go back the other direction.
I gotcha. Let's see. Timber Sky was asking about time frame for the visuals. And I know you had told me that Sanjay was having some family issues, so he had to take some time away. And he was the one that was kind of working on the website and the visuals and whatnot. And so we were talking with Calais about just having some bots on the side in Discord, which seems, I think that would be pretty simple to do. I think even CK could do that for us. And we have him on retainer, so maybe he could do that. He can just, connect a bot to a certain wallet address, and we can see, what funds are in there. And, I don't know how you would show real-time profits, since that's kind of tricky. But I like the way that Warfi and Warhaven do it is they just show the previous month's profits, like the percent and the amount that was paid out, I think.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something we can do here tentatively. Sanjay, did come in today and let us know that he should be back next week. So, I mean, hopefully it'll be a case where we can, kind of get him hopped onto that and knocking that out fairly quick for us. He's pretty good in terms of like turnaround and stuff, but I think, having a Discord bot set up is absolutely a win as well too. So that way somebody doesn't, necessarily have to go to the website, have to connect their wallet, have to do all that. That'll be like if they really want to kind of do the deep dive. But yeah, I know Callie is all for setting up something where we can kind of show the same thing, in a bot in Discord. That way somebody can just eyeball it super quick, and it's just really, quick and easy for anyone to be able to kind of see where we're at so far, either, for this month or, for previous month as well too. So yeah, I'm all for it.
Cool. And Yanni was saying you can't track a wallet like that. It's an API you need.
Yeah, and I believe Callie has some ideas as to kind of how to go through and do that, and I think we can probably set up a conversation between the two and see what we can do to get that set up so we can get the proper APIs connected to a bot, and then we can just kind of, potentially just both share that. And again, that way it's just easy for anyone to be able to kind of see, and we can do like previous month's profit, like annual profit so far, like year to date kind of thing. And then we could do, month so far profit or something like that. I don't know. Like we can figure out some stuff, but yeah, great idea, and I'm all for it.
Cool. All right. Then Timber Sky also was asking, are you still confident about the bot being 100% automated?
Yep. We were kind of asked a couple of questions as to like why our take profit was in a certain position that it was in, and some adjustments with it. And again, I kind of already went through that regarding, hey, there just happened to be a little more liquidity on Bybit than other places, and that was the only reason why our position didn't get closed out. last week. So, again, we really aren't, too worried about it in any way, shape, or form, having to kind of like manually keep an eye on it or place trades. The other thing with it as well, too, is that massive spike that we saw where it just shot all the way down to the 1740 range there. It was within seconds and then shot all the way back up the other direction. And so the trouble that we would even face is like, for a human to even go through, try and get through like their lock screen on their computer and then just kind of go in and, manually try and set up the trade for it to close at a certain thing, click close trade and take profits. It just was humanly possible. I guess like maybe if you're staring at it like already prepped and ready, knowing it was going to spike down right then and there, yeah, you could do it. But like, I mean, we're talking seconds here, like where it shot down like $400 in about 12 seconds. So even just unlocking your computer screen and getting your internet browser loaded up, you would have already missed the take profit position there. So there wasn't really a way to kind of do it. So at this point, we kind of are definitely looking at just maintaining the automated side of it and kind of going from there. I know it'll be a case where we won't pull down the bot when we're done with this one, but we'll go back and we'll review everything, and maybe we have to make some adjustments or some changes or something like that. But again, we're still confident in the position. We're still confident in, the bot and what it's able to kind of do and the fact that it's automated. But does that mean in a situation like this one that we're not going to go back and review it? Absolutely not. So we're definitely going to look through all of it and kind of see if there's any ways that we can do things better. But as for, somebody manually placing trades, they're never going to be as fast as the bot. Like if you want to kind of see how crazy it can be, go to Bybit, go to their derivatives, and you can watch either like Bitcoin or Ethereum. Swap it to the 1 second time frame, and then just wait for a massive spike to happen either up or down, and then just try and track every single trade that flows through at that point in time. It's almost impossible. And again, it's a situation where our bot can see that like thousands of times faster than the human eye can. It processes all of that like instantly.
Right.
So it's just categorically a different beast than what we're able to even kind of do on the human side of things.
I gotcha. All right. I've kind of gotten through all the talking points. The last thing I was going to ask you about was FTX. All the money, all the crypto that they have. And Yanni showed me something that showed that they have billions. They have at least a couple billion, it looks like, in crypto. 1.16 billion in Solana, 560 million in Bitcoin, 192 million in Ethereum. And I was just wondering, are they going to have to just sell all those assets to try and pay people back?
Yep.
And do you think
that's what'll end up happening is they'll sell through, all of that'll be liquidated, and then once it's liquidated, anyone that is effectively on the receiving, or anyone that was in FTX when it had its like issue going on, will receive whatever amount or whatever percentage of their payout it's supposed to be. So, or as high as like upwards of, some people might get up to like 80% of the funds that they had in there.
Wow.
But I mean, the thing is let's say somebody deposited, $5,000 worth of Solana. You can't just pay them out in Bitcoin, So it really comes down to, most likely what's going to happen is they'll just liquidate everything into a stable coin, or cash or something like that. And then at that point in time, that'll just go to those people. So it's very much so going to be a case where I think we'll probably see some massive liquidations. I mean, we already saw some of them last week. Again, that's where that spike kind of came from, as, FTX, I think they liquidated about 8.6 million, but I mean, they still have like an obscene amount of funds that they've got to have liquidated as part of that process as well too, which again is part of the reason why I think we're in this bubble that we're in right now, that people are just kind of like, they're hyped on the Bitcoin ETF news, and then when that dies down and people realize like, holy moly, I mean, there's going to be, hundreds of millions of dollars of cryptocurrency that's going to be walking out the door as FTX is liquidated the rest of the way through this process. I think we're going to see the market course correct and go back the other direction. So, again, that's why we're not any kind of worry on our side over here, is that there's a lot of people are just, they're riding the hype of one thing while totally forgetting that there's something else that's going to offset it. Like, I mean, a great example of that is when we look back at like Luna and UST. When Do Kwon and them started liquidating everything that they could to try and keep UST, pegged, the market took a massive hit in that process as well. So it's like very much so going to be a situation where we're kind of going to be in the same boat. And FTX was much, much bigger than the Luna UST situation was. So, yeah, I think people are going to be fairly surprised as to how much this is actually going to course correct, probably within the next 2 months here, because they'll most likely want to have it done and over with before the end of the year, because Taxman's got to get his tax money. So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, I was just wondering, like, why is anybody buying Solana right now? Because they have how much? 1.16 billion in Solana.
Yeah, that's all going to be liquidated. So jeez. I don't remember the price of Solana right now. I think, isn't it like
it's like
$9 or something like that?
No, it's like $35.
Oh, it's $35.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like $35 billion right there, just waiting to go out the door.
Yeah.
And
jeez.
all of that is going to be liquidated and just wiped out. Because again, you can't give somebody Solana if they had Bitcoin, and
right.
or Ethereum in that case. Like if you didn't have enough to cover all of the people that paid in with Ethereum, you can't just pay them out in Solana. It doesn't work like that. So that's the reason why we're going to see like massive altcoins taking huge hits, probably within the next 2 to 3 months. But I think it'll be done before the end of the year. I mean, they liquidated $8.6 million worth of tokens last week alone. They're supposed to, I think they moved over another, I think it was like $26 million or something like that last week, at the end of last week as well, or something.
Yeah.
And that hasn't even been liquidated yet. So,
jeez.
Yeah. It's going to be rough. People be careful out there. Great time to dollar cost average though, as they start to liquidate that stuff. So if anybody's got some money laying around in stable coins, I mean, probably a good idea to snag some, dollar cost average a little bit,
But, I mean, like, yeah, this like Solana's going to take quite a dip, but like I'm like, why are people? Because I remember Solana a couple months ago was like $20, and now it's like over 30. And I'm like, why is, I mean, I understand, I guess, if you're buying Solana to get some token that's on that blockchain, but I'm like, if you're just buying Solana to hold it right now, I don't know. Anyways, maybe it won't dip that much. But it's $1 billion. It's like a freaking billion. It's a lot of money. But
yeah,
and it's
a lot
not
of
like
Solana.
it's not like it's Bitcoin. It's freaking Solana. It's like the smallest blockchain, isn't it? Probably not, but
I don't think so. I think it's top. I think it's top 5 for sure. It's just got it's got other uses and other use cases out there. It's just, again, it's the same thing that I was just kind of bringing up, is that unfortunately a lot of it's going to have to be liquidated as part of the FTX situation, and that's not going to be something where it's like, hey, it's all going to be liquidated by next week. I mean, they just started the process, and they announced, I believe it was back in like June or July, that they were going to be doing this starting in October. So it was a case where like we had no idea when it was going to happen in October, and then it was very surprised out of nowhere that the same week that they were going to be liquidating the first round of assets for FTX, surprise, iBitcoin gets listed on the DTCC. And again, there's some people out there that are also claiming that like that's also been listed since like August. So it's like there's no surprise that it's even out there in the first place. But it's like anybody who's paying attention to the standard market outside of like just the crypto space, I mean, this isn't like anything new. Like, I'll be honest, people in the finance industry have been talking about this for a while. Like, the company that I work for allows people to buy cryptocurrency already, so it's like, it's no surprise. Like, you can do it. There's a whole like legal process that you have to go through for it. There's like disclosures and 1,000 documents to sign, basically. But I mean, technically, you can do it. This just provides an easier on ramp, for most of those people, anyways. So it's like, and that was introduced, if memory serves, like 2 years ago. So it's like, that's why when I saw this news come out, I was like, oh, I wonder what's happening with the market. Why is Bitcoin going up like this? This is silly. Ethereum's doing the same thing. What are y'all doing? Like, I just looked at it and I was like, I mean, everyone in the standard market has like been aware of this for years. So it's like, there's no surprise to us. It's very interesting how isolated like crypto Twitter and stuff like that is. And a lot of the crypto space from like the standard, market. And it's just interesting to kind of watch sometimes, sit back and be able to kind of see both sides. So
yeah,
yeah,
I bet.
it's just fun.
Yeah.
Good times.
Yep. Well, unless anybody in the audience has any questions, I'm all out of things to talk about. So this might just be a short little AMA this week, and everybody can get back to their Halloween, whatever they're doing today.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. And we'll cut it a little short here. And, again, we'll keep everybody, up to date with what's going on and any announcements. And like I said, if we get lucky in this, the news of the FOMC tomorrow is, fairly negative, or if they even raise the rates, we could see everything kind of come back down. And hopefully we'll see some red in the markets tomorrow, and we can get closed out of this position, and then everybody can be happy and hyped that we did, 13%. So
yeah, buddy.
yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Looks like Blacksmith's typing something out real quick. I just want to give him a second, just in case he's got a question here.
Yep.
I know he can't.
What was Mitch asking you? Oh, just have a great weekend. Have a great week. Thank you, buddy. You too.
Yeah. All right. I'll catch you later, Oliver. Have a great night. Right. Happy Halloween, everybody.
Thank you. Same to you. Thanks for joining us, everybody, and we'll see you next time.